Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Are we all ready to start? Good morning, thank you very much. I would like to call the meeting to order. It is customary, ladies and gentlemen, that we start our meetings with a prayer. I would therefore like to invite Dr. Spa Matthews to give us a short prayer.
Thank you. Let us all pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you this morning, and we just want to invite you that as we are going to this launch, let you be the one who's going to lead us. We ask you all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you all to this meeting. It is unfortunate that due to COVID-19 pandemic, we are not able to converge, but to hold a visual meeting. However, we believe that visual meetings are just as effective as any other meeting. About 3 years ago, Botswana was officially requested by the Association for Development of Education in Africa, ADEA, to host the inter-country quality node on secondary education. The request was favorably considered by the government of the Republic of Botswana. And all the preparatory work has been done to get Botswana on speed. A coordinating office has been established with the key personnel. We are therefore here, ladies and gentlemen, in this meeting today to officially launch the ICQN on secondary education and let Africa, if not the entire world, know that the home for the ICQN on secondary education is the Republic of Botswana. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, the primary purpose of this meeting is to officially launch the ICQN on secondary education and use this opportunity to create awareness and publicity for the ICQN. This forum has also been designed to create an opportunity for legislators, policymakers, experts in education, strategic partners, and captains of the industry to interact and dialogue on issues of common interest. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ndondo Kolese, and I'll be directing the proceedings. Thank you very much. You are most welcome. With that, I would like to invite the Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Basic Education, Mr. Simon Coles. Coles, like I said, is the Deputy Permanent Secretary and is responsible for regional operations in the Ministry of Basic Education in Botswana. Mr. Coles, sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kulesi, and Dumalang Bahetsu, in a good Setswana from Botswana, Karibu to those from East Africa. It gives me pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished guests here today. I believe Honorable Janet Museveni is being represented from the Ministry of Uganda, Ministry for Education in Uganda. You're most welcome. Honorable Leela Devi Dukan Luchmunun, the Prime Minister for Mauritius. You're most welcome. Please excuse my pronunciation where I'm failing us. I have our very own Honorable Fidelis Malau, our Minister for Basic Education in Botswana, and his Assistant Minister, Mama Kwinja. We have Honorable Lady Howard Mabuza from Ministry of Eswatini amongst us today. Honorable Omar Massour from Minister of Swahili, the Arab Democratic Republic. We have Honorable Gaspard Swaragetsu from the Ministry of Rwanda, Ministry of Education in Rwanda. We have Professor Manuel Bazo, His Excellency Vice Minister of Education and Human Development from Mozambique. We have Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable Edgar Moyo. I'm not sure which country Honorable Moyo is representing, I'm afraid. We have our very own with me here in the room today, Bridget Poppy John, our Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Basic Education. We have Mrs. Tumisang Tabela, the Permanent Secretary for Education in Zimbabwe. We have Ms. Heidi Mabunda, the Director of International Relations and Multilateral Affairs from South Africa, our very close neighbors. We have Ms. Agnes Njoreki, the Deputy Director of Quality Assurance and Standards from Kenya, Karibu Sana. We have Mr. Barahimi Sangari, the Technical Advisor to the Ministry of Côte d'Ivoire. And from ADEA, we have Mr. Stefano de Kupri, Mamani Raza Famahatra, Oswald Rutasiri, and Albert, my dear friend Albert from ADEA. You're most welcome. Then from Botswana side, besides the Honorable Malau and Honorable Makwinja and the Permanent Secretary Bridget John, we have Dr. Ramatlala and Dr. Spar Matthews who gave the speech. But amongst us today, we have my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. James McIntyre. He's the program lead for education and skills from West, Central and North Africa with Mastercard Foundation, our partners in this endeavor. So I'll take time to introduce others as they join the meeting. Let me apologize if I have missed anybody. I see Alois Fai from ADEA has joined us. You're most welcome. And with that, I'll say thank you very much to Mr. Chair Rekulesi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coles. Honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, you are most welcome. Thank you very much. The next item in the agenda is welcome remarks. And the welcome remarks will be done by Honorable Naniki Makwinja. Honorable Makwinja, ladies and gentlemen, is currently an Assistant Minister of Basic Education and Member of Parliament for Lentseleta Mopani constituency. She holds a BA Honours degree in Sociology and Social Policy from the University of Essex in the United Kingdom, and a postgraduate diploma in International Management from Liverpool. She started her career with Botswana, a mining company, in the 1980s. She progressed to leadership positions within a very short time. In recognition of her performance, her and passion and expertise in organization performance management system, Honorable Makwinja was offered an internal consultant role to develop a company-wide computerized performance management system. Honorable Makwinja has also helped human resource functions in a number of organizations, including Botswana Power Corporation and Air Botswana. Ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Makwinja has also helped organizations in reviewing and developing their human resource processes to improve both individual and organizational performance, such as conditions of service and compensation and benefits. She has been a board member for several organizations, including Botswana Medical Aid, Botswana Investment and Trade Center, Botswana Communications Regulatory Authority as vice chairperson and member, and Botswana Engineers Registration. Honorable Makwinja has also been a board member for a number of non-governmental organizations, such as Childline Botswana as a chairperson and vice chairperson of Sponsor a Child Botswana Trust Fund. It is my honor, ladies and gentlemen, and privilege to invite the Honorable Makwinja to give welcome remarks. Honorable Makwinja, Madam.
Thank you. Thank you, Director of Proceedings. Let me recognize Deputy Prime Minister of Mauritius, Honorable Leila Dukum Lichimon, Minister of Basic Education, Honorable Fidelis Malau, Ministers of Education representing your own respective countries here present, Permanent Secretaries for the ministries present, Executive Secretary Association for the Development of Education in Africa, Mr. Albert Asigiyumba. President and CEO, Mastercard Foundation, Ms. Rita Roy. Chief Executive Officers of parastatals and organizations here present, Deputy Permanent Secretaries, senior government officials of the countries represented here, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, directors of proceedings, good morning. Director of proceedings, on behalf of the Ministry of Basic Education in Botswana, I am overly delighted to welcome you all to the virtual launch of the Inter-Country Quality Node on Secondary Education under the theme, Rethinking Secondary Education System in Africa. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, kindly allow me to acknowledge the presence of our partners, ADEA and Mastercard, who have been critical partners in the establishment of the Inter-Country Quality Node on Secondary Education. I wish to assure them that the government of Botswana remains committed to taking a lead in transforming the secondary education landscape in Africa. Director of proceedings, the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic has made the use of information, communication, and technology, ICT, a necessity in the conduct of business of every establishment, including meetings, which is what we are having now, workshops, and in learning institutions. Therefore, as we rethink secondary education in Africa, there is a dire need to embrace ICT in delivering education in our schools while addressing or adhering to COVID-19 restrictions to avert and reduce the spread of infection. Honorable ministers, we have a responsibility to mold the young minds of today's generation. In order to achieve this goal, teachers, parents, and all other stakeholders need to closely work together to ensure improved learning outcomes. When everyone is equally dedicated and involved in doing their part, a sustainable learning environment is created for desired outcome. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it goes without saying that Botswana cannot succeed in championing and leading the inter-country quality node on secondary education without close collaboration with other countries. Hence, the invitation has been extended to most of the countries in Africa. Taking a closer look at the map of the inter-country quality nodes, it is critical that there must be close collaboration between these nodes on early childhood development. I believe we understand the importance of early childhood education. It is the foundation of education. Literacy and national languages, teaching and learning, mathematics and science education, peace education, as you know, in Africa, this is key. Technical and vocational skill development, amongst others, to ensure full realization of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, particularly educational goal number 4, which aims at ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Directors of proceedings, the government of Botswana remains fully committed to support ADEA and the inter-country quality node on secondary education, not just by hosting, I must say, but through meeting all its obligations, including payment of the annual subscriptions to the association. The annual subscriptions by all members will go a long way to help IDEA realize its vision of achieving high-quality African education and training geared towards the promotion of critical knowledge and skills for accelerated and sustainable development in Africa. Distinguished guests, as I welcome you to this launch, I am optimistic that we are all energized to succeed in everything that we set our minds in order to improve secondary education and the future of our young population. Honorable ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Director of Proceedings, once again, please accept my opening and welcome remarks and enjoy the launch. I thank you sincerely.
Thank you very much, Honorable Assistant Minister, Mama Kwinja. Ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you have all been welcome to this meeting. We will move on with the agenda, and it's in order that before we go far with the agenda, we receive remarks from ADEA. So at this stage, I would like to invite Mr. Albert Nsenguyumva. Nsenguyumva is presently the Secretary of the Association for the Development of Education in Africa, ADEA. He's a hands-on, result-oriented leader with deep analytic skills and have a good knowledge of education, training and vocational education and training, ICT policy development and practices in Africa. He holds more than 20 years of experience acquired in policy development in education, technical and vocational skills development, as well as information and communication technology. Having been a Rwandan government minister for over 4 years, Mr. Nsenguyumva, his expertise is in understanding government functionalities, social capital, and networks with regional bodies, that is African Union, African Development Bank, and so on, is key to achieve the mandate of ADEA. At this stage, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite Mr. Albert Nsenguyumva, the Executive Secretary of ADEA, to give his remarks.
Thanks a lot, Nando. I hope you can hear me. I'm suffering from a bad flu since last week, but I'll try my best. So first of all, let me express my appreciation to the government of Botswana through the Ministry of Basic Education. I think we have been together since the inception of the inter-country quality note on secondary education. And as ADEA, particularly the steering committee of ADEA, on behalf of the chair, I would like to express our gratitude to your government for the interest that you expressed in hosting this new inter-country quality note. I had actually prepared a short presentation on ADEA that I want just to go quickly because I know some of our members are not. I will go quickly through and I will conclude my remarks after the presentation. So ADEA, as you know, most of you, is really a forum for policy dialogue. It's also a network of policymakers, practitioners, and researchers. It also facilitates partnership between Ministry of Education and Development partners, catalysts for accelerated reforms, and of course, a platform to promote critical knowledge, skills, and qualification. The vision is there, the mission. We all aim to raise the quality of education in Africa, particularly aligning with the CESA and the Africa we want. And the mission is, of course, to serve an open and flexible Pan-African organization that is informed and facilitates the transformation of education and training that will drive the Africa accelerated sustainable development. This is a quick governance structure over there. As you can see, there's a steering committee made of ministers that are part of the STC, the Science, Technology, the Technical Committee of the African Union Commission, the Bureau, is actually, and of course the partners, development partners and organizations compose the steering committee. And then from the steering committee, we have an executive committee, the ADEA Secretariat that is hosted by the African Development Bank. ADEA has two important pillars. One is the Continental Education Platform. This is where the inter-country coordinate fall. And the work that is being done by the quality nodes are actually feeding the forums that ADEA organize both at the regional but also at the continental level. The second pillar is, of course, the advisory and execution support services that ADEA provide to countries. Examples are connected with data management and use, capacity building, and others. We have the ongoing strategic plan, 2018-2022, and the strategic plan is actually focusing, as I said, on the two pillars. Next. Of course, ADEA was very much engaged with COVID-19, and some of our member countries here present participated in our country status reports, where we actually assess how countries have been dealing with COVID-19. Countries were really very much affected by COVID-19, particularly in education. Remote learning was taken as really an option to continue education during the closures of schools. And there's so much that we have learned after this. Right now, ADEA is busy developing remote education benchmarking toolkits to guide countries to better use remote learning as an important option. And of course, to prepare countries should there be COVID-like situation in the future. So that's really what we are pushing for right now. We will actually be inviting our member countries to participate in the validation of workshops when we'll be presenting the benchmarking tools that focus on basic education, on TVET, and on higher education. What are the current focus? Right now, just sharing the key areas of focus that we are involved in. We are preparing the high-level policy dialogue forum. As we all know, the importance of digitalization today in the labor market. We would like to discuss the reforms in technical vocational skill development in light of digitalization and the fourth industrial revolutions. We will send you confirmations once the dates are confirmed. ADEA is also planning its 2022 triennial next year. And the triennial will be focusing on a number of issues, including foundational literacy and numeracy, but of course, skills development, the use of technology, and cross-cutting issues, including gender, equity, and equality. The next, of course, is the role that the ICQNs play under ADEA first pillar. So each of these inter-country quality nodes is focusing on its own action plan, and ADEA will continue supporting the inter-country quality nodes through case studies and communications and coordinations to make sure that the country can share best practices. We are looking to introduce and to initiate a study to look into capacity needs of ministries of education. In this regard, ADEA has actually launched a learning and knowledge management hub that will be used to host the learning management system to help develop the required capacities for ministry staff. And this is something that will be informing our members in the near future. ADEA also is going to be working with other partners, particularly at UNESCO, in launching the Africa Spotlight Report series on foundational learning. Basically, it's really measuring learning outcomes, particularly for primary and 9-year basic education. And this is a pilot to start in a few months. Then we can actually expand it to more countries as well. ADEA is very much engaged in the CESA indicators benchmarking initiatives, working with the African Union Commission, but also the UNESCO Institute of Statistics. We are also exploring new areas in data management, utilization of inclusive EMIS and open sources. We all believe that in the current situation, there's a need to rethink the role that education management information system need to play in supporting our planning activities. And therefore, it is so important that we strengthen the capacity of our ministries in this regard. I'm just sharing a couple of ongoing activities in each of our inter-country quality nodes. As you can see, each of these quality nodes are very much involved in key priority areas, being in technical vocational skill development, in higher education, in ECD, in promoting a reading culture, particularly for early learners and others. This here is just to share some partnership that ADEA has done. As we all know, partnership is a key driver of our intervention. So here I'm just showing a number of partners that we've been working together to make sure that we can actually accelerate the implementation of the CESA, but more importantly, to address some of the issues that the education system are facing within our continent. Thank you. Let me come back now to the purpose of this meeting, just to complement my predecessors that have already mentioned a few important points. Why are we here? It's basically to launch the inter-country quality node on secondary education. The background of this is actually a report that was commissioned by Mastercard Foundation 3 years ago. And the report was actually presented in Johannesburg in July 2019, before 12 ministers of education from around the continent. And there are specific lessons and findings, plus recommendations that come out of that report. The report first acknowledged that we need to change the way we've been teaching in secondary education because the labor markets, the needs and demands have changed. We definitely need to review and make sure that we strengthen, including integrating 21st century skills in our secondary education. The report acknowledged that competency-based curriculum is being introduced in 27 African countries, which is really an important step. But competency-based curriculum have their own requirements, notably making sure that teachers are retrained to be able to share and to be able to teach using a competency-based curriculum. The report also expressed the need to increase the number of teachers. There's going to be a need of 10 million secondary teachers in Africa, particularly in secondary education, in 10 years to come. The important point here is how do we make sure that our countries can be able to provide such a great number? Here, the use of digital technology is going to be very critical. The report also acknowledged that there's a need for more flexibility. Flexible pathways are needed in and out of formal education and between TVET and general education. So we need flexibility, and we need to introduce it as quickly as possible. Evidence indicates that equity-based financing can make a difference for excluded students. We all acknowledge that dropout is one of the critical issues that our education system are facing. So there's a need to appropriately address the issue of equity-based financing. Achieving universal secondary education will require $175 billion in 2050. That's a huge amount of money, which means there's a definitely need for partnership, for engaging with global partners to secure such a huge amount. Expanding access to high quality relevant secondary education in Africa is an urgent priority and unprecedented challenge to make sure that we can actually cope with the growth of our population in the different countries. So in brief, we are talking about reimagining secondary education in Africa. This is why we actually agreed to establish a quality node on secondary education so that member countries can come together, share their practices, understand the needs, and be able to cooperate to meet the aspiration of our continent. So without taking too much of your time, let me thank you again for taking your time, ministers, dear ministers, honorable representatives of different organizations. Thank you for joining this event. And my hope is that we can work together to make sure that we advance secondary education and position to meet the demand of today and tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Albert. The other time I had a tough time pronouncing Albert's second name. Then he called me and whispered on my ear and said, "You really mutilated my name." So this morning I tried to practice before the meeting, Albert. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Shall we move on to the next item in the agenda? And this is going to be led by the program leader from Mastercard. He's responsible specifically for education and skills in West, Central, and North Africa. And this is none other than Mr. James McIntyre. Mr. James McIntyre, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable ministers, distinguished guests, members of the ADEA Secretariat, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is James McIntyre. As the chair noted, I'm the program lead for education and skills at the Mastercard Foundation based in Accra. First, on behalf of the Mastercard Foundation, I just wanted to share my congratulations with the Ministry of Basic Education in Botswana, as well as ADEA on the launch of the ICQN on secondary education. This is a very important thematic addition to ADEA's ICQNs and a fantastic opportunity to contribute to an area in education with growing importance on the continent. The Mastercard Foundation's mission is to advance education and financial inclusion, to catalyze prosperity on the continent. And our vision is a world where all young people, no matter what their starting point in life is, have an opportunity to learn and to prosper. And given its important role as the voice of education in Africa, ADEA is a very key partner to the Mastercard Foundation in helping us to achieve this vision for education and in our work in support of education and skills on the continent as part of our Young Africa Works strategy. And support for the establishment and development of the ICQNs, like this one hosted by the Ministry of Basic Education in Botswana, focusing on secondary education, is an important component of this partnership with ADEA. We know that ensuring that Africa's young people secure employment or can create their own livelihoods is one of the most significant tasks facing policymakers today. And under the Mastercard Foundation's Young Africa Works strategy, which seeks to provide opportunities for 30 million young people across the continent to access dignified and fulfilling work by 2030, the provision of quality, relevant education and the development of human capital is an integral part of our theory of change and a key enabler of youth employment across the continent. We know that the future depends on how well we can strengthen and harness young people's capacity and develop their potential, and the critical role that quality and relevant education plays in this. And so in addition to a lot of our programming working in tertiary education through initiatives like the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, the Foundation places a particular focus on secondary education in our country programming under Young Africa Works. And as Albert mentioned, the Secondary Education in Africa report has recently shown that a larger proportion of a growing youth population is progressing into secondary education, and enrollment in secondary is expanding. And increasingly, secondary education is becoming the key platform from which a majority of young people will enter the workforce. And secondary education is really central to achieving the African Union's Agenda 2063 and the Sustainable Development Goals. It's a good quality education that ensures that young people acquire the skills, the knowledge, the competencies that they need to succeed in a dynamic and globalized labor market where trends of digitalization and automation are on the rise, is really critical. And so we know that secondary education plays this increasingly important role, and there's an urgent need to address challenges in terms of access, quality, and the relevance of secondary education. And so this ICQN will have a central role to play in bringing together education expertise, in promoting dialogue and supporting joint problem solving through collective action on improvements in secondary. And so I just wanted to say that we're very excited to see the launch of this important ICQN. And I would like to again thank and congratulate the Ministry of Basic Education in Botswana and ADEA. And so on behalf of the Mastercard Foundation, we very much look forward to our continued partnership as we work together to strengthen secondary education across the continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, James McIntyre. We'll be looking forward to that collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the next item, which actually is a presentation by Inter-Country Quality Node on Secondary Education in Botswana. And the coordinator is Dr. Mohomutsi Ramatlala. Ramatlala works for the Ministry of Basic Education as a senior education officer. He holds a PhD in curriculum and teaching methodology from Central China Normal University in Wuhan, China. Ramatlala is a goal-oriented achiever with years of experience as a secondary school teacher, administration officer, and researcher with strong analytical, interpersonal, and team working skills. He has also combined experience in physical education, research and evaluation, and curriculum and teaching methodology in contributing solutions to the educational problems. He's also very passionate about teaching and authored scholarly articles in an attempt to improve the standard of teaching and learning. He is the coordinator of the ICQN Secondary Education in Botswana. Dr. Ramatlala, sir, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ndondo Kolese. Director of the proceedings, kindly allow me to say all protocols observed and good morning. Honorable ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is the very same idea by ADEA that has brought us together under one roof to lay the foundation of the ICQN-SE or ICQN Secondary Education following the successful launch of the report on secondary education by Mastercard on the 13th of August 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, no one can excuse the fact that countries all over the world are facing a litany of problems, and chief among these problems is education systems that are not responsive to the skills and competencies as demanded by the world of work. This is not the time to apportion blame, but seek solutions that can make the impact of secondary education to be felt in our continent and globally. Therefore, secondary education as a level that fits institutions of higher learning and the labor market should be seen to be playing its part. The report on secondary education in Africa by Mastercard has laid the foundation for the ICQN-SE. Today, therefore, we are gathered here not to make lengthy speeches, but to remind ourselves that secondary education has increasingly become a platform that produces human capital required to drive the socio-economic development of the continent. It is for this reason, ladies and gentlemen, that we are gathered here today to launch a forum for action and engagement. Honorable ministers, let me hasten to state that my speech as the ICQN coordinator forms the basis of what informs the decision that you will make today for education ministries in our respective countries. And to some extent, permit me latitude or grant me latitude to give you a brief background on ADEA and the ICQN, idea of the ICQNs. The idea of the ICQNs stems from the recommendations of the biennial held in Mauritius in 2003. Therefore, as a follow-up on the recommendations, the ICQNs emerged as platforms geared towards promoting dialogue for education and leadership. These platforms, as already averred, were created for the purpose of engagement. Honorable Ministers, the main objective of these notes is to bring together countries facing similar challenges with strategic partners who have expertise in a specific field to promote dialogue, collective learning, and space for collaborative learning. Therefore, the role of the ICQN-SE will not in any way deviate from what the other ICQNs are advocating, but will be specific to secondary education issues and further perform cross-ICQN collaboration for best practices and best experience to achieve a shared and common goal. It will act as a platform and a catalyst for learning and sharing of information and knowledge to promote policies, strategies in secondary education. Director of Proceedings, allow me this moment to bring everyone's attention to the ICQN-SE, or Intercountry Quality Note Secondary Education, which has brought us under one roof today. The overall objective of the ICQN-SE is to support ministries of education to take the lead in developing and implementing transformative policies and strategies for improving the delivery of education in Africa. The ICQN will focus on the following. It will advocate for political vision and leadership in supporting and prioritizing investments and policies to reform and innovate secondary education in Africa. The ICQN will promote integration of key skills relevant to the labor market needs into secondary education curricula and pedagogy. The skills that we are referring to here are the 21st century skills, the digital skills, STEM knowledge and skills, technical and vocational skills, entrepreneurship and work readiness skills. And we must also look at alignment between the competency-based curriculum reforms, pedagogy and assessment systems. The ICQN will further support initiatives aimed at expanding teacher recruitment and training to fill projected gaps. The ICQN will further work with countries to establish and formalize alternative pathways between non-formal and formal education with portable accreditation to increase access of out-of-school youth. The ICQN will advocate for strategies and programs that facilitate the creation of pathways between secondary level, general education, TVET, and post-secondary and tertiary. Finally, the ICQN will contribute to the development of systems for cross-sectional dialogue. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the governance of the ICQN comprises the following structures and responsibilities. The government of Botswana will be the host, through the Ministry of Basic Education in Botswana will be the host and leader of ICQN-SE. ADEA will provide strategic advice at policy level. It will also provide some seed funding through technical support through its working groups, task forces, and partners. It therefore remains the responsibility of ADEA to do the following. ADEA, as the Secretariat, would provide advisory or capacity building, guidance, and support specifically for activities where ICQN-SE does not have in-house capacity. ADEA will encourage and support the implementation of joint activities with other ICQNs and task force on education management, policy, and support. Remember, as already averred by the Assistant Minister of Basic Education, Member Makwinja. She was talking of collaboration between ICQNs, early childhood, maths and science, teaching and learning. ADEA will also participate in events and programs organized by the ICQN and partners. It will also review the ICQN work program and budget and provide the necessary input. Honorable Ministers, Government of Botswana as the vision bearer for ICQN will provide the overall coordination of the ICQN activities, and it will be backed by the Regional Steering Committee and the Coordination Committee in liaison with ADEA and ICQN strategic partners. Government of Botswana will also serve as an entry point for partners interested in the work of the ICQN. Specifically, the Government of Botswana through the Ministry of Basic Education will promote dialogue and lead implementation of reforms based on the collective knowledge and experience accumulated through the network and the ICQN. It will also coordinate and exchange information with ADEA Secretariat, ICQNs and task force to prepare and deliver services and work efforts related to cross-cutting thematic areas or issues. The ICQN will develop specific work plans and budgets in liaison with ADEA for inclusion in the integrated work program and budget. The ICQN will further provide technical information and program results to the Secretariat for inclusion in communications, reports, and other information materials. We will further report and be accountable to the ADEA Executive Committee and Steering Committee via the Secretariat. ICQN-SE will collect, analyze, and disseminate lessons in addition to best practices, knowledge, and other information on specific issues or experience in Africa secondary education. The ICQN will drive collaboration between African governments and other strategic partners to develop innovative and impact-driven policies, programs, and practices in secondary education. Director of Proceedings for the purpose of managing affairs of the ICQN and its members. In Botswana, the ICQN Secretariat is managed by the coordinator. Botswana will constitute a regional steering committee. It will be chaired by the Minister of Basic Education and comprising selected education ministries of respective ICQN countries. There shall also be a coordinating committee at the level of the host country, consisting of stakeholders chaired by the executive secretary, senior executive in the Ministry of Basic Education. Each ICQN member country will act as a country chapter and designate a national focal person to act as the principal contact with the ICQN Secretariat. Therefore, this calls for each and every one of us in our own little spaces to actively play our roles. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Director of Proceedings, it is important to mention that the membership to the ICQN is open to all African countries facing common or shared challenges. It must be noted, therefore, that the country can be a member of more than one ICQN depending on the country's interest. A country wishing to join the ICQN-SE shall indicate its interest by writing a formal letter to Botswana requesting to be a member of the ICQN-SE, and also indicating its formal commitment to actively participate in the activities of the ICQN-SE. Furthermore, joining countries shall provide the ICQN Secretariat with the names of its focal point. Director of Proceedings. The ICQN-SE is also alive to the potential impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on secondary education system. The pandemic has presented us with an opportunity to rethink and build a solid education system that drives the quality education for all the learners across Africa. The pandemic has had negative effects on the children and adolescents, which include, among others, the abrupt closure of schools, confinement due to lockdown measures globally, and a global economic recession. The negative effects have short and long-term consequences which have directly impacted on the learners, parents, teachers, and education systems. Therefore, the ICQN-SE is ready to come up with strategies and protective measures to make sure that teaching and learning is not curtailed while also preventing the spread of COVID-19. Honorable Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude my speech, the wise once said, can the ocean exist in spite of the river? Can the forest exist in spite of the tree? Can the river exist in spite of the little droplets? I need you. You need me. We need each other. It is not a secret that Botswana needs countries to change the secondary education landscape. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. That's Dr. Ramatlala, the ICQN Secondary Education Coordinator in Botswana. Thank you very much, Doc. Can the river exist without what? Drops. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we move on? I would like to recognize the presence of colleagues who have just joined us. We have been joined by Honorable John Muyengo from Uganda, Dr. Abulaya from Libya, and Mr. Khalifa Traore from Burkina Faso. You are most welcome. Thank you very much. The next item, it's now not very formal presentations like that one. It will be just interventions from honorable ministers here present. I would like to give you a chance to make your interventions. Just 2 minutes each. And if you want to speak, you raise up your hand. We will see you on the machine that you'd like to make a comment. Ladies and gentlemen, it's open for you, honorable ministers. Thank you. I can see Honorable Omar. Please go ahead, Honorable.
Okay, thank you and good morning. Honorable Minister of Education of Botswana, Mr. Fidelis Molau, Honorable Ministers, High Officials, and distinguished participants. Allow me first to introduce myself, Honorable Minister. My name is Hamdi Did, Director General of Secondary School Department at the Sahrawi Ministry of Education. I am here representing my Minister, His Excellency Omar Mansour, who sends you his apologies. He had an unpredictable health issue yesterday that required urgent medical intervention and was therefore unable to attend as was planned. He sends you, Honorable Minister Fidelis Molau, and all Honorable Ministers and distinguished participants, his most sincere greetings and wishes you success in this official launch of the Inter-Country Quality Note on Secondary Education. He also sends his highest regards to the Honorable Minister of Education of Botswana and thanks him for the invitation of the Sahrawi Ministry of Education, which will always be happy to collaborate with all of you for the progress of our continental agenda on education. Honorable Minister, we would like to congratulate Botswana and the Association for the Development of Education in Africa for the establishment of the ICQN on secondary education that will certainly contribute to the achievement of the African goals on secondary education. We totally support you in this timely and much needed initiative. We also congratulate the Ministry of Education of Botswana and the Association for the signature of the Memorandum of Understanding and wish you success and sounding progress in this collaboration. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Mansouri from Sahrawi. We really appreciate your comments, sir. Thank you very much. Honorable Leila Devi Hokun.
Honorable Ministers and their representatives, distinguished officials, the Executive Secretary of ADEA, a very good afternoon to you. I am Maya Sunaran, representative from the Ministry of Education of Mauritius, addressing you on behalf of Honorable Vice Prime Minister, Mrs. Leila Devi Dukan-Luchuman. She was with us during the first part of the meeting, but unfortunately she had to attend to an urgent obligation that cropped up. The Honorable Vice Prime Minister presents her sincere congratulations to the Ministry of Basic Education of Botswana for first inviting us to this official launch, and second, for leading the ICQN for secondary education, a key subsector of the education system. And her congratulation goes to ADEA for expanding its purview on this important subsector, which presents a number of critical issues, ranging from catering for the high demand for secondary education, the critical skills needed, areas such as STEM, gender equality, leveraging technology, especially in this COVID-19 area. Countries are called upon to work collaboratively, and ICQN are designed to succeed. But success will come if there is a vibrant network among member countries and supported by the partners and fed by the evidence from research. There is much that can be learned from one another, and the ICQN presents such a platform. With these words, the VPM wishes the ICQN secondary education plenty of success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Leila Devin. We appreciate your comments. Thank you very much. Brahima from Côte d'Ivoire. Honorable Brahima.
Ben, avant toute chose, je voudrais, au nom de Madame la ministre de l'Éducation nationale de Côte d'Ivoire, l'honorable Kandia Kamara, vous saluer et vous dire que c'est avec regret qu'elle n'est pas avec vous ce matin pour des raisons liées à l'agenda gouvernemental. Alors, je vais vous livrer in extenso le discours qu'elle avait préparé à l'occasion pour justement vous transmettre ses sentiments vis-à-vis donc de cette grande initiative qui vient d'être prise. Monsieur le ministre de l'Éducation de base du Botswana, président du présent forum, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres de l'Éducation, très chers collègues, représentant donc les 5 grandes régions de notre continent, nous échangeons de ce jour sur les politiques éducatives en général et sur l'avenir de l'enseignement secondaire en particulier. Mesdames et Messieurs les dirigeants de la Fondation Mastercard, partenaire majeur de l'Association pour le développement de l'éducation en Afrique, Monsieur le ministre Albert Zengigiyumba, secrétaire exécutif de l'ADEA, très cher frère, j'espère que je n'ai pas écorché votre nom. Mesdames et Messieurs les partenaires techniques et financiers de nos systèmes éducatifs, distingués participants à cette cérémonie de lancement officiel virtuel du Forum intergouvernemental du Pôle de qualité interpays sur l'enseignement secondaire, Mesdames et Messieurs, je voudrais d'entrée adresser au nom de mon pays, la Côte d'Ivoire, nos remerciements aux organisateurs de ce forum, avec à leur tête l'honorable Fidelis Moulao, ministre de l'Éducation de base du Botswana. J'associe à ces remerciements le secrétaire exécutif de l'ADEA et sa dynamique équipe pour leur engagement permanent à nos côtés en vue de la promotion d'une éducation de qualité sur le continent et pour avoir réussi à maintenir le cap dans le suivi de leur plan d'action en dépit des aléas causés par la pandémie de la COVID-19. Je rends un hommage particulier à la Fondation Mastercard qui n'a de cesse de soutenir les activités de notre association, en particulier celles portant sur les initiatives visant à préparer les jeunes d'Afrique au monde du travail. Mesdames et Messieurs, le forum ce jour sur le lancement officiel du pôle de qualité interpays sur l'enseignement secondaire et la redéfinition des objectifs de cet ordre d'apprentissage nous donne l'opportunité de partager avec vous la politique de la Côte d'Ivoire en la matière et de vous faire surtout un résumé des réformes que nous y avons initiées pour la construction de notre jeunesse. Mesdames et Messieurs, lors du forum de haut niveau tenu à Johannesburg en juillet 2019, sous la présidence de son Excellence M. Cyril Ramaphosa, président de la République d'Afrique du Sud, sur le thème « L'enseignement secondaire en Afrique, préparer les jeunes au monde du travail », 4 préoccupations majeures, entre autres, avaient émergé des échanges et retenu notre attention. Il s'agissait, premièrement, de la modification des programmes afin de dispenser les compétences nécessaires à nos jeunes en vue de leur apprentissage pour une insertion professionnelle réussie. Deuxièmement, de la formation d'un corps d'enseignants hautement qualifiés à cet effet. Troisièmement, de la garantie de l'accès de tous les jeunes à l'enseignement secondaire, quelles que soient les circonstances. Quatrièmement, enfin, du financement de la réforme de nos systèmes éducatifs actuels. Les réformes entreprises par mon département, sur l'instruction du chef de l'État et sous l'égide du Premier ministre, chef du gouvernement, sont en droite ligne avec ces préoccupations. En effet, en ce qui concerne la modification des programmes, nous avons en Côte d'Ivoire entrepris depuis 2011, dans le cadre de la traduction en actes de la vision du président de la République, son Excellence M. Alassane Ouattara, de passer de l'école de l'échec à l'école de l'excellence, d'inscrire au chapitre de nos priorités non seulement la révision de tous nos programmes éducatifs du préscolaire au secondaire, selon l'approche par compétences, et la mise en place de nouveaux formats d'évaluation des apprentissages, mais aussi l'adéquation dynamique de nos enseignements aux réalités du monde du travail d'aujourd'hui et de demain, ainsi qu'à l'impératif d'insertion professionnelle de nos jeunes par l'auto-emploi. Au plan opérationnel, ces objectifs stratégiques ont été déclinés en 3 axes clés. 1. L'inscription dans les programmes d'enseignement général, et ce dès la maternelle, des cours sur l'entrepreneuriat. 2. La création au sein du ministère d'une direction de technologie et des systèmes de l'information, d'une direction de la formation professionnelle et d'une autre dédiée à l'apprentissage et à l'insertion professionnelle. 3. L'adoption en 2016 d'un plan stratégique de réforme de l'enseignement technique et de la formation professionnelle. Ces modifications de programme ont permis, entre autres résultats, d'assurer un accès équitable à l'apprentissage et à l'enseignement des technologies pour tous, particulièrement pour les femmes et les filles, et de réaliser un programme de développement technique et professionnel conformément aux instructions du gouvernement. Il convient à ce propos de noter ici les acquis ô combien importants de 2 projets majeurs mis en œuvre grâce au concours de nos partenaires techniques et financiers. Il s'agit des camps d'été de formation intense à la science informatique en anglais que nous avons appelés Coding Boot Camp Summer et qui ont pour objectif de développer chez nos jeunes des cycles secondaires. Les compétences du XXIe siècle, c'est-à-dire l'esprit critique, d'analyse et de partage afin de résoudre en équipe les problèmes en entreprise et en société en utilisant la technologie. Il s'agit aussi du projet pilote École numérique d'excellence africaine, ADEA, financé grâce à la Mastercard Foundation, que je tiens à remercier à nouveau. Cette initiative-ci permettra de transformer à terme les écoles secondaires en écoles numériques d'excellence. Il mettra également un accent particulier sur la réforme des collèges, qui vise à donner un socle commun de compétences aux élèves, ainsi que sur la mise en œuvre du programme des collèges de proximité. Celui-ci a permis aujourd'hui de rapprocher les établissements secondaires des populations en milieu rural. Mesdames et messieurs, la professionnalisation de l'enseignement secondaire demeurant l'un de nos objectifs pour permettre à tous nos jeunes, sans distinction, d'apprendre un métier et de garantir ainsi leur employabilité, nous avons opté pour la diversification de l'offre de formation au niveau de l'enseignement secondaire technique et professionnel. Par ailleurs, la régulation du flux entre l'ordre d'enseignement général et celui du secondaire technique et professionnel reste un des enjeux majeurs de notre réforme. En ce qui concerne la problématique de la formation d'un corps d'enseignants hautement qualifiés, il me plaît de souligner qu'au moment où, selon le directeur exécutif de l'ADEA, notre ami Albert Zengiyumba, 70% des pays d'Afrique subsaharienne sont confrontés à une pénurie d'enseignants et que de nombreux enseignants ne disposent toujours pas des outils et des connaissances de base pour enseigner efficacement les compétences numériques, la Côte d'Ivoire a fait du recrutement des enseignants, de la mise à leur disposition d'outils adéquats de formation, de leur perfectionnement continu, de leur évaluation à travers un contrat de performance et de l'amélioration exceptionnelle de leur rémunération salariale et de leurs conditions de vie, les 5 principaux leviers de son objectif d'amélioration de la qualité des enseignements dans les cycles primaires et secondaires. Ce sont en effet au total plus de 90 000 enseignants et personnels d'encadrement pédagogique et administratif que l'État de Côte d'Ivoire a recrutés et formés depuis 2011. Cependant, en dépit de cet immense effort, il n'en demeure pas moins que la situation décrite par le secrétaire exécutif de l'ADEA s'avère être également une réalité, malheureusement, dans mon pays. En effet, l'État de Côte d'Ivoire, ayant fait l'option de l'obligation scolaire depuis 2015, nous nous trouvons actuellement devant un déficit systématique d'enseignants du fait de l'insuffisance des capacités de l'École normale supérieure, l'autre unique école de formation d'enseignants dédiée aux établissements secondaires publics à pourvoir à la demande. Aussi, face à cette pression en constante hausse, avons-nous entrepris d'explorer la piste de la libéralisation de la formation des enseignants du secondaire en recourant aux universités. Celles-ci ont lancé des travaux pour la mise en place diligente et conséquente de programmes académiques intégrant des volets pédagogiques en partenariat avec la direction de la pédagogie et de la formation continue de notre ministère. C'est vous dire, mesdames et messieurs, très chers homologues, qu'il nous faut changer de pratique dans le recrutement des enseignants du secondaire en réfléchissant ensemble à de nouvelles approches si nous voulons gagner cette bataille. La mise en place du PQIP enseignement secondaire nous en donne l'occasion. Concernant la garantie de l'accès de tous les jeunes à l'enseignement secondaire, il faut dire que soucieux de bâtir une société de vivre ensemble sur une base d'égalité et d'équité et composée d'un capital humain compétent, capable de relever les défis du monde interconnecté et concurrentiel, la Côte d'Ivoire, sous l'égide du président de la République, Son Excellence M. Ouattara, a adopté une loi en 2015 rendant l'école obligatoire et gratuite pour tous les enfants âgés de 6 à 16 ans vivant sur le territoire national. Cette loi, à portée historique, confère à la Côte d'Ivoire, terre traditionnelle d'accueil de millions d'Africains de tous horizons, un statut de pionnier en matière de scolarisation inclusive en Afrique. Et de la problématique du financement d'écoles. L'État de Côte d'Ivoire consacre au secteur éducation-formation plus de 1 395 milliards de francs CFA, soit environ 2 561 millions de dollars US. Cette situation pose avec acuité donc la question du financement de l'école et nous oblige, nous, ministres de l'Éducation et Formation, à exhorter avec diligence nos gouvernements respectifs à inscrire au chapitre de la mise en place du Fonds africain pour l'éducation en Afrique. Mesdames et messieurs, celle-ci passe par une redéfinition de l'enseignement secondaire, parlant donc des défis auxquels notre monde est aujourd'hui confronté. Et c'est pourquoi la mise en place ce jour du pôle de qualité sur l'enseignement secondaire est une initiative que nous saluons et assurons ces initiateurs de notre absolu soutien. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sangare. Thank you very much. We really appreciated your comments. Thank you very much. I will take the last two interventions from Honorable Ministers, if any. Okay, in the absence of interventions from Honorable Ministers, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce two colleagues who have just joined us. It's two honorable ministers. It's Honorable Gaspada Twangirayevu from Rwanda. You are welcome, sir. And Honorable Edgar Moyo from the Republic of Zimbabwe. You are welcome, sir. Thank you. Honorable Minister from Rwanda, would you like to make a quick intervention, please? Thank you. Over to you.
Yes. The honorable ministers, the executive secretary of ADEA, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Education of Rwanda is happy to participate in this launch of the ICQN-SE, and we would like to congratulate the Ministry of Basic Education of Botswana for this launch. We all know that creativity and energy of the African youth is the driving force behind the transformations, the continent's transformation. So to achieve that, African countries must ensure that school-aged populations in secondary education are given access to education, training, skills, and the technology. But this will have to go hand in hand with the provision of capable teaching workforce to ensure that the learning process is taking place effectively. So this is a call for that change, and we require for us to initiate self-assessment within our education systems. And for example, we must rethink a model of self-sustaining schools. We must design curricula that are responding not only to individual students, but of learning needs that correspond to the continental aspirations for development. But also we must think about how we can develop the capacity of teachers, because these are the ones who will drive the transformation of the secondary education as an agent of change that we seek on our continent. The investments in education should also match the aspirations of Africa that we want and those of each individual African countries. But we also must acknowledge that individual countries cannot achieve sustainable and quality transformation alone. So this means that we must work together and make sure that we form strong partnerships when it comes to education. So this launch of the ICQN on secondary education by the government of Botswana is one of the goals of expanding secondary education in Africa. And it is a clear sign of how much we can achieve when we join our efforts and work together for a common cause. As I conclude, I'd like to take this opportunity to confirm that the Ministry of Education in Rwanda will seek to be part of this ICQN-SE hosted by Botswana. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We are indeed looking forward to working with the government of Rwanda on this initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, do I see any hand up? I had said two, so I would allow one more. Thank you very much. Honorable Edgar Moyo from Zimbabwe, would you like to make an intervention, please? The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies. Let me begin by acknowledging the Minister of Education from Botswana, all ministers participating, our experts, our officials, and education partners that we have on this platform. My name is Honorable Edgar Moyo, Deputy Minister for Primary and Secondary Education in Zimbabwe. And I send apologies for my Minister, Honorable C. Matema, who could not be with us due to other pressing government commitments. I want to congratulate the government of Botswana, particularly the ministry, for the hard work that they've done towards the launch of this very important document today. And also want to tender our commitment as Zimbabwe to fully participate in all the activities of ADEA and also all the commitments that you have to do and activities that you have to do with the ICQN-SE as indicated in the various discussions. Zimbabwe is already involved on full throttle in the implementation of the competence-based curriculum, and we want to commit ourselves to all that's going to happen for the success of this program. Finally, I want to wish us all a successful launch of the ICQN-SE today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Moyo from Zimbabwe. We are also looking forward to that continued collaboration with Zimbabwe. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, I can see Honorable John Muyenga would like to make a comment. Briefly, Honorable.
Thank you very much. Muyingo John Chrysostom is my name. I'm the Minister in charge of higher education in Uganda. I'm here to represent the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports. I'm sorry, down here, the network has been disturbing, quite a number of things I didn't follow. But I just wanted to say congratulations to Botswana, congratulations to ADEA for this great launch. I want to confirm our commitment as Uganda to participate in all activities that have to do with ADEA and all of us. I wish you very good deliberations.
Thank you very much, Honorable Muyengo. Thank you very much for your comments, sir. Right. Any comments from strategic partners? Strategic partners? 1, 2, 3, I move on. Thank you. I don't see any hand up. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to move on to the next item, which is questions and answers. We'll just take a few minutes and interact. We'll take questions and comments and answers, and we answer those. And would anyone like to pose a question or a comment? Prof. Khalifa, would you like to make a comment, please? Prof. Khalifa Traore from Burkina Faso. Thank you, sir.
Oui, ok, voilà, merci. Voilà, donc c'est juste pour saluer l'initiative et puis dire simplement que, en fait, quand nous écoutons les différentes interventions, les défis majeurs, nous avons tous les mêmes défis majeurs au niveau de l'enseignement secondaire. Et il s'agit notamment donc, du problème des déficits en enseignants. Quand je parle de déficit autant qualité que quantité, parce que le problème du profil des enseignants se pose avec accrédité. Qui parle donc de qualité donc de la formation, nécessairement parle donc de qualité des enseignants aussi. Et donc, ce problème se pose au niveau de tous les pays. Et ensuite, nous avons le problème de la pertinence des contenus pour ce qui est de l'enseignement secondaire. Et là, l'autre problème que nous avons, c'est le problème de déséquilibre entre tout ce qui est enseignement général et enseignement technique de la formation professionnelle. Au niveau du Burkina Faso, nous avons décidé donc de mettre, en tout cas au niveau de la politique du gouvernement, c'est de mettre l'accent sur le développement donc au niveau du secondaire, des matières scientifiques, des filières scientifiques et technologiques. Mais l'autre problème qui va se poser, c'est le problème d'employabilité, parce que déjà, il y a une certaine représentation de l'enseignement technique, puisque dans le temps, au niveau de nos pays, on orientait seulement ceux qui avaient échoué dans l'enseignement général. Maintenant, on essaie de développer l'enseignement technique et la formation professionnelle, mais le risque qu'il y a, c'est qu'à la sortie, si ces jeunes ont des difficultés d'insertion socio-professionnelle, et tous les efforts risquent d'être, en tout cas, risquent d'être vains. Et donc, quand on écoute les différents, notamment, je prends le cas de la Côte d'Ivoire, les interventions, quand on écoute, il suffirait simplement de remplacer le mot Côte d'Ivoire par Burkina Faso ou par Mali ou par n'importe quel pays, on se retrouve en fait là-dedans. Donc, la création donc, de ce CQP, pour nous, c'est quelque chose qui est vraiment important et ça pourrait nous permettre, en tout cas, d'échanger les expériences, d'autant plus qu'on a les mêmes problématiques, en fait. Donc, c'était juste pour saluer et pour dire qu'au niveau du Burkina Faso, et nous adhérons parfaitement et puis bon, nous ferons parvenir au niveau du Botswana, en tout cas les correspondances qu'il faut et pour dire que nous allons prendre une part active en tout cas à ce pôle de qualité. Voilà, merci.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you. I just hope colleagues were able to access the simultaneous interpretation. We were given guidance on the screen. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? I don't see any hand up. So I shall proceed to the next item. Thank you very much. The next item, ladies and gentlemen, is now the core of it. Is a presentation on the education reforms, outcome-based education, and career pathways. This shall be led by the chief host, Honorable Fidelis Molao, who is currently the Honorable Minister of Basic Education in Botswana. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Humanities, majoring in English grammar and literature in English, and history of international relations. He also completed postgraduate diploma in education, majoring in educational psychology and teaching methods. Both qualifications were obtained from the University of Botswana. Honorable Molao, ladies and gentlemen, has completed various short courses in security sector governance, postgraduate diploma in public relations, civil and military relations, and parliamentary oversight at various institutions. He is pursuing a master's degree program in research and public policy with the University of Botswana. Mr. Molau has experience in teaching, retail, administration, and marketing and communications. He joined Parliament as a legislator in November 2010 and has served in cabinet under both portfolios of assistant minister and minister from 2015 in the Ministries of Agricultural Development and Food Security, Ministry of Education and Skills Development, Ministry of Tertiary Education, Research, Science and Technology, and currently a full minister in the Ministry of Basic Education since November 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure and privilege to invite a Minister of Basic Education, Republic of Botswana, Honorable Molau, to present. Honorable Minister, sir.
Thank you very much once more, Chairman, for this opportunity. May I take this time in the interest of time, say, ladies and gentlemen, the honorable ministers who are attending this meeting, my deputy minister has already welcomed you to this meeting. Everybody, senior officials from ADEA, from Mastercard, and other stakeholders in this conference. Let me not follow the whole list. It is a long list. You have already been acknowledged. Let me once more acknowledge your participation, your involvement, and the opportunity accorded to my country, Botswana, and the Ministry of Basic Education to host yourselves, and also having acceded to our request that we should hold and host this ICQN in Botswana. It is a very delightful thing for us to have in Botswana, and we will continue to work very hard to make this hosting successful, work with all our sister countries, honorable ministers, for the achievement of this, the hosting of this country quality node. And this afternoon or this morning, it is already going into the afternoon. May I take this opportunity, having said that on the behalf of the government of Botswana and the Ministry of Basic Education that I represent, I'm privileged to join you today on the launch of the inter-country node on secondary education that is being witnessed by distinguished persons all over the participating countries. The inter-country quality node on secondary education hosted by my ministry and the government of Botswana emanated from the recommendations of the first annual high-level policy dialogue forum that was held in Johannesburg, South Africa in July 2019, organized by ADEA in close collaboration with Mastercard Foundation and the South African Department of Basic Education. The forum concluded that it had become critical to reform secondary education in Africa by enhancing the teaching profession. With enhanced teaching, schools will be able to provide quality learning opportunities for children and impart the 21st century skills. It is also critical to embrace innovation and information and communication technology, ICT, at secondary education level to ensure Africa becomes a global competitor. Director of Ceremonies, let me take this opportunity to express my appreciation to ADEA for selecting Botswana to host the ICQN on secondary education. As the government of Botswana, we are very grateful for this gesture. Botswana has recently enacted a law to regulate the teaching profession called the Botswana Teaching Professionals Council, BOTECO for short, in 2019. And efforts are underway as we speak to recruit the Secretariat to start the job in earnest. Furthermore, Botswana has resolved to adopt an outcome-based education and its associated education pathways as guided by our Education Training Sector Strategic Plan, ETSSP. We will be implementing multiple pathways at senior secondary schools in a phased manner, starting with 2 of our senior secondary schools this current financial year, 2021-2022, in line with the General Education Curriculum and Assessment Framework, GCAF, which has already been adopted by government. The implementation is based on the principles of outcome-based education. It must be noted, ladies and gentlemen, that GCAF is aligned to the Global Skills Index Framework and the National Policy on Assessment, which has also been adopted recently by Cabinet and by the government. This will guide assessment and examinations in an outcome-based education environment where school-based assessment plays a major role in monitoring learner achievement. The new curriculum calls for more pre-vocational subjects in our schools to impart practical skills, competencies, and knowledge needed by learners in the world of work. We envisage that the pathways will be fully rolled out to all our senior secondary schools by the end of the financial year 2023-2024. Ladies and gentlemen, the advent of OBE, that is outcome-based education, and the introduction of educational pathways dovetails well with the hosting of this ICQN secondary education by my minister. The ICQN secondary education will play a meaningful role in supporting the ministry's transformation agenda, as well as assisting Botswana to become a thought leader on issues of secondary education. The African community stands to benefit from this noble gesture, as we all need to share experiences and improve the learning outcomes. The ICQN on secondary education will serve as an intergovernmental forum for policy dialogue, peer learning, and knowledge exchange to advance secondary education in Africa that is geared towards preparing our young people for the future of work, in addition to preparing graduates to successfully proceed to higher education. We had hoped to sign the memorandum of agreement between ADEA and ourselves today, but our legal team is still making some minor refinements to the documents. The ICQN will focus on promoting good practices in priority areas as pointed out in the Mastercard report on secondary education in Africa, the ICQN will focus on promoting good practices in priority areas as pointed out in the Mastercard report on secondary education in Africa, such as teachers' professional development, integration of ICT in teaching and learning, introducing demand-driven technical and vocational skills, strengthening learning assessment, amongst others. I wish to take this opportunity to invite sister countries to join the ICQN for secondary education in order to strengthen collaboration and learn from each other in order for accelerated, sustained inclusion, equitable quality education, and most importantly, to address the challenge of youth unemployment besieging most African countries at this particular time. Director of Ceremonies, ladies and gentlemen, I once again wish to express our sincere gratitude to ADEA and its various partners who contributed to the establishment of the ICQN secondary education. The duo have availed resources for the ICQN secondary education, especially by acquiring the services of a project officer whose mandate is to help on the day-to-day activities of the ICQN, as well as supporting the country coordinator. My ministry is committed to supporting other countries to implement the recommendation of this report on secondary education by Mastercard Foundation. This includes the integration of key skills and innovation in education relevant to the labor market needs, and to expand recruitment and training of teachers, to establish various education pathways for learners to access further education and employment opportunities, and introduce demand-driven technical and vocational skills, and to complement efforts to provide fee-free secondary education. May I repeat, to provide fee-free secondary education with equity-based financing, amongst others. The report's recommendations are guiding our priorities as a nation moving forward. Director of Ceremonies, honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, having said this, it is now my singular honor and privilege to officially launch the Inter-Country Quality Node ICQN for secondary education. I thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Minister. Botswana officially hosting the ADEA ICQN. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, I said earlier on that the home for ICQN secondary education is the Republic of Botswana. The ICQN has been launched. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. You can open that box to look at the kind of questions people are asking, and there is also provision for answers and comments. So people are continuing to communicate on site. Now, to the last item in the agenda, which is the closing remarks. The closing remarks, ladies and gentlemen, will be done by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Basic Education, Mrs. Bridget John. Mrs. John holds a master's degree in development policy and public administration from the University of Wisconsin-Madison in the US. She has a master's degree in business administration from the University of Botswana and a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Botswana. She also holds an MCIP-ES from Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply. She has a postgraduate certificate in privatization and public-private partnerships from the University of London. Further, she underwent training in a number of areas, including public-private partnerships from Harvard University, public procurement from the International Law Institute at George Washington University, leadership and from British Council and Rutgers University, and management development program from the University of Cape Town. Before she joined the ministry, she served as the executive chairperson of Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Board, overseeing the management of all procurement and asset disposal for the central government. Prior to that, Mrs. John was appointed the coordinator of the University of the Botswana International University of Science and Technology and the Education Hub, where she promoted capacity building of Botswana to train its people locally and attract foreign students. Mrs. John also served as Divisional Manager Services and Executive Director Services at the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Board. Prior to that, she was employed by the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development, where she rose through the ranks from assistant economist to principal economist, focusing on development, planning, and coordination of development partners. Mrs. John has been a board member of institutions, including the Citizen Entrepreneurship and Development Agency, National Food Technology and Research Center, as well as the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Board. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome Mrs. John and invite her to give closing remarks. P.S. Over to you, madam. Thank you.
Honorable ministers, distinguished participants, I greet you all. I take this opportunity to thank all distinguished speakers for their enlightening presentations. After all the deliberations and input by various speakers, the ICQN Secondary Education, under the able leadership of the Botswana Ministry of Basic Education, is inspired by the clear commitment and willingness of all to reshape the secondary education landscape for the better. There is one message that was echoed throughout the deliberations, that of the need to reform secondary education in line with the recommendations of the Mastercard report on secondary education, which dovetail very well with the reform agenda in most of our countries. Today's launch, ladies and gentlemen, under the theme, Rethinking Secondary Education System in Africa, accentuates the need for collaboration by education ministries to address the common problems besieging the African continent, particularly that of youth unemployment. As the African proverb goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Indeed, the ICQN Secondary Education Node is a springboard and a catalyst of reform for secondary education in Africa. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Mastercard report on secondary education has clearly articulated the direction we ought to follow as education ministries in Africa. As Botswana, we are committed to taking a lead in transforming the secondary education landscape and move in tandem with our education training strategic sector plan and global education trends. Research has demonstrated that secondary education is a platform that prepares learners for the world of work, given that most learners do not get an opportunity to proceed to tertiary or technical education. With the right mindset and commitment by all stakeholders, we will direct our efforts towards empowering our secondary school learners with the 21st century skills and adequately prepare them for a bright future. I would like to thank in a very special way the Mastercard Foundation and ADEA for their vision and determination in supporting reform in secondary education and indeed supporting today's launch. A big thank you goes to all our distinguished participants for having taken time to join us today. We look forward to a united front by all African countries as we position our secondary education on a pedestal to revive our economies and empower our youth. I thank you for today's launch. Let us keep the fire burning. Thank you, Director of Proceedings.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pierce. The very last item in the agenda is a closing prayer. But before I invite Dr. Matthews to pray, ladies and gentlemen, let me also thank you very much for your cooperation. I want to thank you for making it possible for me to drive this. I know it was a very long day for us, but we made it. I want to express our gratitude to you once again for sacrificing your most valuable time to join us in the occasion of launching the ICQN on secondary education. Your presence indeed is a very clear assurance to us that we shall not walk this journey alone. We'll certainly be with you. I'm simply underscoring what the PS has just said. In my capacity as the chairperson of this, I want to thank you all. Please have a good afternoon. Thank you very much. Dr. Matthews, would you like to pray for us, please?
Thank you. Let me say a short prayer and say all protocol observed. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this afternoon. We thank you that this was a successful launch, oh God. Heavenly Father, we pray that, Lord, help all our leaders, oh God, in Africa to be able to overcome and access all the ideals of secondary education, oh God. Father, help us, oh God, as our countries to be successful in rationalizing, oh God, and also doing all that is best for the ICQN of secondary education. Father, we pray all this in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Please don't forget to respond to our invite. We invited countries to join the ICQN. We shall be awaiting your response. Thank you very much. Good afternoon.